Welcome to Kier's Kingdom Connection, featuring
my dad, Reggie Key, and
my dad, Kier Hopkins Smith.
Man. Kier's
Kingdom Connection.
Bro, we didn't had a break from last week, right? Because you had a busy week.
Yeah, we're not
gonna step in it.
I'm still
recovering. You still recovering from that.
From all that. I was out in Dayton, Ohio, having my son live his best life in band.
Amen.
And now we back. He's like, the first day back. I'm like, how you feeling? He's like, it's school, man. It's back to the same old.
Oh my God.
He's just like, because he's told me, he's like, it's tired. He said, school is tiring.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I have to put on this kind of face to be able to interact with people. And I'm like, well, we all got to do that. Right. But it's his first time really being in it and cognizant of it enough to be like, I don't know if I like this though. It's tiring.
I got you.
Yeah.
I get that. And I deal with that with my children as well. And helping them to navigate those waters, right? Helping them navigate those waters. Because I get it. At the same time, it's that help to push them past it might be the word, but help them to push through it, right? Mm-hmm. To push through it. Because if you can build your own identity, not separate from Christ, but just build that in the midst of it, then when you cross over to the other side, he's going to see a greater side of himself in the corporate world, right? And in the adulting world. So you won't feel like every wave and every wind that blows.
That's what I was thinking.
Bruh.
You won't be double-minded, so easily swayed by every wind and doctrine that comes in society, that comes in corporate America, that comes in, every aspect of life. You'll just be...
You'll be even killed, man. And if you can develop it down, that's what I'm trying to help our children. It's like, develop this now, right? All right, so that's not even our subject.
That's not even the
I know it. So that's bonus material. God bless you. Yeah. Receive that in Jesus' name. But you spent the wheel...
It got spunked. And we landed on kicking it old school.
Old school.
We old school, man.
Bruh. Listen. Don't make that.
I don't even. It's not even like relative anymore. It's like, well, it's relative based off of. No, we old school.
Now. Listen. Don't edit that out of Reggie's face. Don't receive that face. Reggie, you make a face, because it's real. It's real.
It's so real.
It's so real. Well, it's like, okay, so you remember when we was kids and we saw the people who was older than us.
We did.
Right?
They don't look like us, though. We don't look like them. Their 45 is not our 45.
Come on.
We eating better, you know what I mean? Even my son, I'm happy that my son still says, he's like, Dad, compared, and I'm sorry, my son says, he's like, hey man, compared to some of the other dads and parents, he's like, y'all still look young. So I'm like, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, son. Yes. I appreciate that.
Yes.
But at the same time though, when I, so we were doing band, and I was a crew parent, so I'm helping out with the props and everything. And one day, just out of nowhere, my shoulder was like, nope, not today. I was like, what the? And it was like, Reg, you all right? I'm like, yeah, man, I'm good. I'm just gotta, give me a second. I just gotta. For the next couple practices,
right?
It was just like, click, like.
You said no.
And so that's how we 80s babies.
Yeah, we are 80s.
I'm proud of being an 80s baby, man.
I am.
We were just talking about, I just watched a preview for Transformers Rise of the Beast or whatever today. Yeah. And it was really nostalgic because they're taking the Transformers design back to 80s time. And you remember we were on the text thread, and I was, the text thread that we do every Tuesday.
Every Tuesday. Yeah. For our men's meeting.
8:30 to 10.
8:30 to 10 on Zoom.
Yeah, it was affiliated to that.
Yes.
That's what we do. So I put out there to my guy Will, who I've known since, first grade. Him and I grew up on Transformers, and I was like, hey, man, because I put that meme, and I was like, hey, man, like, what year did Transformers come out, though? Yeah. What year did the original movie come out? And you beat him to the punch. It was like 1986. And that 84 to 86, man, that was just a golden era.
It was golden, baby.
For a lot of stuff.
For everything. I mean, fam, for a lot. Mm-hmm. I told my children, I said, listen, I'm not against the new age great movies. I said, but there is an era of movies in the 80s where classics was dropped and other movies bit off those movies to create what y'all know now.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, but during them times, woo, it was a time, right? It was a time. But yeah, man, and I love it. Just us reminiscing, just going back to us being born, because he was born 78, I'm born 79, and just going through that time of the 80s was different, right? Family was different, neighborhoods was different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not that any era didn't have its possible dangers and its ups and downs, right? I get that, but it still had a different air about it at that time. I mean, I guess if you was from the Watts or you might have been from East LA, you might have had a different experience. But at least in Fort Wayne, in Indianapolis, just keep it rocking, right? At least at that time, playing outside, being outside consistently, and it's not that some children still don't do it, but it's like that was life. Outside was life. Like
somebody told you got to stay inside. That was a punishment.
that was punishment.
You're sitting in the window like.
Zoom in on that thing.
I'm sorry.
Hey, listen, my mom used to get, look, I don't know if your mom ever gave you the ultimatum of whether it's going to get a whooping or a punishment. I used to weigh that thing out. Reggie, I used to be like, okay, let's see. Last time I got a butt whooping, that hurt, man. I didn't want that pain again. But to have to be stuck in the house on a summer day when it's sunny outside and everybody on their bikes and riding around.
It didn't even matter, though. It didn't even matter because they're just going to choose the opposite.
Bruh.
Your parents did that too?
No, it was my mom. She was slick with it because if I chose the punishment, she opened up the doors and the windows.
Oh, wow. But you just smell all that.
So I could see them doing it and see and smell it all. That's how she do it. And then she'd tell me, don't go near the door.
Yeah.
You got to stay away from the door.
You got the cartoon like floating on the aroma outside.
Real talk. Right, bro. But it was like, but like you said, just being outside was something else. And creativity. I was, just talking to you earlier. I was like, one of the cartoons my children grew up on that I absolutely love, that we know whoever made it was born in the 80s or an 80s baby, was Backyardigans. Backyardigans. I was like, oh, come on. Backyard friend. We the Backyardigans. I said, they got the whole world, imagination and all, right there in their backyard.
Mm-hmm.
But now children need PlayStation 5s,
well, that
Xbox One X's,
that does the imagination.
VR goggles,
mm-hmm.
and AI in order to have an imagination or to utilize their imagination. And I'm not completely knocking it. We're just kicking it old school, right?
We're just kicking it old school.
Kicking it old school. And you give a brother a rock, some grass, a couple sticks. In my backyard, it's over.
You said that I was listening to Dayton, Christian artist. I believe it was him, and he was saying like, yeah, my mother told me if you throw a rock, don't hide your hand. That's a principle. I was like, oh wow. I'm calling my mama like, Mom, why you never tell me? That was some sound bold stuff.
Hey, that's how you keep from getting caught. So if you did it,
own it. Don't hide your hand.
Listen, own that thing. But fam, I even think about, okay, so even kicking it old school when it comes to church, right? Because I was a drug baby. I was drugged to church by my grandma, right? I mean, grandma didn't mess around. She made sure that we was there Monday through Saturday and Sunday all day long, right? She didn't play around because she was on every board that existed in the church. And even when it comes to kicking old school, I used to love listening to the older saints as they would pray, because they had a language for their prayers, bro, that would blow me away. It's like when I would read letters from people who wrote stuff like back in the 1400s. You can barely read it because you're like, where did this language come from?
Yeah.
And yet we're supposed to be smarter now, but yet it seems like in some areas we're dumber, right? But I used to love listening to the older saints when they prayed, because they would like stop using words and just moan, or they would hum, and they would groan from their spirit. And I was like, and God answering stuff, because he just knew, and they knew that he knew without having to say anything. And it was something else. I don't necessarily get that now, in the 21st century. I don't hear in my older saints moaning like my grandmother did back in the 80s, you know, and the older saints doing it. So it's just like it's different. So I reminisce on those kinds of things, bro.
Yes, I mean every person's old school is somebody's new school. Right. And so imagine what they were saying when they looked at us. And we caught some of that, but we just kind of disregarded it. Like, whatever, I'm living my best life right now. Yeah, what y'all used to do, but this is where I am now. And that's why I made that face earlier, because it's just funny to just transition to this place now where it's like, yeah, there's a whole new thing. Like, I catch myself saying stuff like, you know, listening to the rap music that's out now. My children don't necessarily listen to it, but I hear some of it. I tried to stay current last week. I was talking to some kids back in Elgin, and I was like, yeah, you know, we were talking about Chicago just got a new mayor. And he came from the high school that I'm teaching, that I'm doing virtual sessions with.
Right.
And we're trying to engage them like, you know, is it more dangerous is the world more dangerous because of the people in it that are doing crime, or the people that do nothing about it?
Ooh.
Right?
Okay.
And so I was trying to draw the connection. This mayor is choosing to do something about it.
Yeah.
What have you heard about the city of Chicago? And it was like him and hawing. I'm like, they don't know. I'm like, y'all know. Y'all know what they say about Chicago. So then I tried to be relevant, and I'm like, yeah, you know, what about Chief Keef? And then somebody was like, yeah, he old now. I'm like, oh, snap. Like, sorry. I'm thinking I'm being relevant. And it was like, yeah, man, I don't think they know who he is anymore.
Right.
And I remember, to me, he's still new.
Yeah.
He's trash, but he's newer. And here's me trying to stay relevant.
Yeah.
And yeah, we should just all stay in our lane.
You got to stay in your lane, right? I get it.
Another time I was talking to some kids, and I was like, yeah, you know, this Wiz Khalifa. Wiz Khalifa? And it turned to John Witherspoon on them. Public enemy. I was like, but I didn't mess it up. I just said it, and then people started laughing. I was like, where's Gaddafi? And it was like, he's old man. And it was like 10, 15 years ago, and I was like, what? I didn't even know I said it wrong. And I was like, my fault, man. I'm doing some 80s stuff. You know, there was a dude named Gaddafi back in the day. He was a dictator or something, and it just came out my mouth wrong. So, you know, I completely aged myself in that moment.
Yes. Hey, but you know, listen, it's all good. It's all good because I want us to, even as we kick it old school, it's the ability to age gracefully, right?
Yeah.
And to not allow time. One, I mean, we understand that we're subject to the power of time to a degree, but it doesn't have to dictate us, right? We can actually utilize time if we allow grace to be grace. And if we age well with grace, my wife and I just celebrated our 20-year anniversary yesterday. Woo, woo. 20 long years. And I sent a message to the man of God who married us. And I mean, this was, 2003. And I was like, bro, 20 years. And he was like, can you believe that we've gotten that old this quick? Right? And I was like, yeah, we've aged. I said, but fam, we've aged with grace, though. I said, because Holy Spirit's a keeper.
Yeah.
I said, because real talk, there's some people who our age, they look like the tree of life and death, then beat them in the face.
Yeah.
And they look 60, 65, but they really only 45. And it's like, come on. But to age well with grace. And my oldest son, is 20, Josiah the elder. He's 20. And he said, no, he's 19. I'm sorry, he's 19. But he said something the other day. He said, Dad, I'm almost 2 decades. I said, hold up, son. I said, you know what this means, right? He said, what? You officially old.
What do you say?
And he said, wait, why? I said, because only us older folk speak in decades. And he stopped and he was like, oh, dang, Pop, that's real.
Why you heard this like
hey, he was like, that's real. I said, listen, when you start reminiscing in decades, you done crossed a threshold when you start. I said, because you can remember a decade ago and have clear memory of a decade ago. I said, hear me, you done crossed over to something. And so I just love it, man. And old school, bro. You and I, we kick on levels of that when it comes to music. Kicking it old school when it comes to food. I mean, when it comes to where we grew up. I think there's just so much. Not that we're caught up in it, because we have to be where we are in the present time. But we don't ever want to miss the lessons that old school taught us.
Yeah, it informs how we engage other people. It informs how we raise our children. I was talking to my son the other day because there was something that I try to, when I'm around him, remember the things that my dad did. And my dad was a good dad, but he didn't do all things right.
Right.
And especially when it came to me interacting with my friends when he was around. So I hold back when I'm around. Like when I was in Dayton, Ohio, I just kind of play the periphery. Like I'm not going to be all up in your grill.
Right.
Not going to be trying to talk to your friend. I'm not antisocial, but I'm like, I'm gonna give you your space.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had to tell him though. I was like, you know what though? I was saying something to him because one day he straight up gave me more space than I gave him though, and I called him on it because of course he asked for some money, and I was like, bro, you barely walked right past me and look, you avoided the eye contact, but now you need some money though. And so I just need you to see the perspective from my end.
Yeah.
And I said, but you know what though? I'm dealing with my own baggage right now. I'm dealing with the things that are unsettled or that I'm carrying from what my dad did. So I'm gonna give you your space, but at the same time though, like, dap me up next time you see me though.
Dap me up.
Right?
Yep.
So I mean, what we come out of has to give us pause to try to figure out where we are now. I mean, that's just how it functions. That's just how it should be.
Yes, that's how it should be.
And
absolutely.
That's we talk about it nostalgically, but it's always good to know. What is the saying? Like, if you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going.
Absolutely.
So
yeah, man.
We done got serious, but
oh yeah. Well, I mean, it is because there's a level of, like you said, if you don't know where you've been, it's going to be difficult to know exactly where you're going, right? And it's important for us to keep these principles so that we don't lose sight. And you know it, but biblical principle, that's why God would have the children of Israel to put that pillar of stones from wherever they were brought out of, wherever they were coming from. You put a pillar of stones so that when you look back, you remember where God brought you from, right? And no matter what cards was dealt to us as kids, some hands less than others, some greater than others. It is what it is, right? But the important things is being a card player. And as being a card player, I was taught in the game of spades is that you learn how to play your hand. Even though you might not have everything you want in that hand, you got to play it smart and play your hand smart. And then you learn from those things, right? And then after you know the process, once you learn from it, you got to then share it. Now, what the next generation does with it, we're not responsible for.
Right.
But we at least got to give it to them.
Present it.
Yes, we got to present it. We got to give it to them. Let them know our joys. Let them know our ups, our downs, our pains, our horrors, our victories. Every one of those things has to be passed on to that next generation. And then what they do with theirs is going to be what it is.
Yeah.
And we're going to trust God with it. But I don't ever want to hold back my old school from my children. I make sure they always know where dad came from, what dad came through and came from, so that they understand where they are and their own lineage. So when you go forward and this God, if Jesus tarried long enough and they have children, I want them to be able to do that same thing for theirs.
Yeah. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, man.
Hey,
Kicking it.
old school. Kier.
Kingdom Connection. Kicking it. Till next time, y'all make sure y'all subscribe to this. Like it, subscribe, share it. We just brothers here kicking it. We love to talk. We love to laugh. We love to break bread in the physical. I know. The physical and in the spiritual. We like to break some bread together. But we just want to be a blessing to the people who's watching. So God bless y'all, man. Thank y'all for chiming in, tuning in, and listening in. Blessings.
Public enemy.
Public enemy.